Hey BC, it's Chad. So it's been over a month since I've done a vinyl finds video. So I picked out some of the best stuff I've bought over the last month, and let's get to it. So right now I'm listening to a newer record that I got. I don't think I've showed this before, but it's a record called Cult Sounds. And it's a compilation of various cult music from different cults, like Jim Jones, Shoko Asahara. This is Bobby Bielsul and the Freedom Orchestra from Lucifer Rising. Anton LaVey is on here. Lots of weird stuff, some interesting things. I think it's a bootleg, I'm not sure, but it sounds good, looks cool. There's some cool facts about each cult on the back. Cult Sounds. Here's one I was actually looking for a while. I just wasn't able to find a good copy of it. And it is an original mono pressing on Stax of Booker T and the MG's Green Onions. I was super stoked to find this. Really nice jacket. Vinyl's pretty nice too, so Green Onions. So here's one that I showed on the YouTube page, I think. Found this one at Half Price Books maybe 2 weeks ago. It's Townes Van Zandt live at the Old Quarter, Houston, Texas. And this is an original on Tomato. And I have the reissue for this, so it's a pretty nice looking set of vinyl here. So I don't think I'll need to upgrade, and I can get rid of my repress. So Townes Van Zandt. Actually just got another Townes Van Zandt yesterday, and I put that in here. It's a reissue of For the Sake of the Song, and this is the Vinyl Me Please edition for October. And I actually have an original of this I got a few months ago. I showed. This is a nice heavyweight jacket, a nice heavyweight colored vinyl, and there is a super cool 10-inch booklet with some liner notes and some photography. So if you're a fan, or if you want to check out Townes Van Zandt, I would recommend picking this up from the Vinyl Me Please subscription service. So it's a really nice package, and the vinyl always sounds good from them. I had some Amazon gift cards to burn, so I finally broke down and picked up a copy of Helio Land from Massive Attack. Helio Goland, I think it's called. I don't know why I can never pronounce this one. Yeah, Heligoland. This is a really nice triple gatefold package. There's actually only 2 LPs in it and a super cool photo book. This is a weird record because the jacket has glitter paint on it. It doesn't really flake, but I've actually separated it out into its own bag just so it doesn't contaminate the vinyl or anything. And it's actually too big to fit into any, because it's like a custom jacket, so it's too big to fit into a regular dust jacket, so it has to go in sideways here. But this was reissued. This is a UK copy. I got it from the UK, and I don't think it ever really made it here. My local store had asked to get it for me, and they never were able to, so it's actually getting kind of pricey, so I was glad to pick this up through Amazon UK. So here's one I actually just found on Saturday. I am kind of holding off playing it until the season, but it is one I've been looking for a while. It is Christmas in the Stars, the Star Wars Christmas album. This is one that I don't see around at all. I paid a little bit more than I wanted to for this, for a novelty record, but it's Star Wars, it's a Christmas album, it's got great cover art, it's still in the shrink, so whatever. Star Wars. And on the opposite end, for Halloween, I was gifted this record last weekend at a convention from a friend. I collect this series on the Electric Lemon record label, and it's the Vampire at the Harpsichord. And these are like novelty records. They're mostly you know, instrumental stuff. There's probably 3 or at least 4 different monsters in the series and different themes. So this one's actually a really good listen as well. So I was super stoked to get this, and it's a really nice copy. So here's a couple just random pickups. I went up to Cleveland a week ago to a convention and went record shopping, and I picked this one up on the cheap. It's Destination Love live at Cold Rice, and this is by the band The Makeup. The Makeup were formed from the ashes of Nation of Ulysses, who were on Dischord Records. This was actually released on Dischord Records as well. So it's kind of like chaotic punk mixed with like gospel and soul. So I was really into this band when they first came around, and I haven't listened to them for a while, and I put this on, and I was just really happy with it. So I still have probably 3 or 4 of their other records, and I have a bunch of singles. So if you're into like soul and that kind of, you know, and hardcore, this is, you know, pretty fun record. Gospel, yeah. So here's one that I picked up. I didn't necessarily need it. I have an early 80s pressing of this, but this is actually a First Island Records pressing for the US, and it's actually one of my favorite records. So I have 3 or 4 copies, and everybody needs this. It's Here Come the Warm Jets from Brian Eno, or just Eno, and it's on the Island labels, and this is a really nice clean copy. So there is a small little cut corner, but I'm not worried about that, and happy to have that one in my collection. So I'll show this guy first, this girl. It is an original copy of the 3rd or 4th Nico record, The End, and this is also on the Island label. I've been on a Nico kick. I still need a copy of Chelsea Girls. I'm looking for an original, but I showed 1 or 2 previously. But it's a pretty fun record. It's got Brian Eno on it as well, and you know, John Cale. So I have a story about this record. I went to a store that I went to a few months ago, and he had a Karen Dalton record, and I asked him, I go, you know, what do you think of Karen Dalton? And he's like, oh, I don't buy into the hype or whatever. And this happened to be a reissue from On Light in the Attic, and I had passed on it at the time. So I went back there, and I'm like, oh, I'll pick up that Karen Dalton if it's still there today. Well, it was still there, and I picked it up, I put it in my PAL, and I found a bunch of other stuff, and I was like, I have an original of the first one, so, you know, I put it back, and I was like, oh, you know, I'll find it again, or whatever. Lo and behold, I went to the next store after it. The first record I see in the PAL, in the new arrivals bin, was an original copy of In My Own Time. And when I opened the record up, for some reason, there was no inner sleeve or anything. It was just the record and the jacket. So I wasn't thinking it was going to be in great shape, but it's pretty nice, almost VG plus. So the only thing I think there's a small little hole cut in here, but this is an original on this Just Sunshine label. And thanks to Danny and Andrew, I've been listening to Karen Dalton. It's kind of a interesting listen. And now I have the first two originals, and I didn't pay that a lot for them. So that was a pretty cool, interesting thing to happen. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have one of the most classic, infamous metal bands, and it's Under the Sun of the Black Mark. And this is a classic record from the band Bathory, Under the Sign of the Mark. So this is their third record, and this is an original copy on Under One Flag, and I got this locally for a good deal. So here's a record I actually just picked up on Discogs. I sold a few things and you know, just traded it up for this. It's been on my list for a while. I love this movie from the 90s, and it's the soundtrack for the movie Pump Up the Volume, and features bands like Henry Rollins and Bad Brains doing Kick Out the Jams from MC5. There's Concrete Blonde doing Everybody Knows from Leonard Cohen. One of my favorite Soundgarden songs on here, Heretic. There's the Pixies, there's Peter Murphy, and Sonic Youth. So this is an amazing soundtrack. It's quite expensive, and I've just been holding out. I just haven't been able to find it locally, so until there's a repress, but definitely love this soundtrack, and worth every penny. Pump Up the Volume. So I went to a local sale maybe a few weeks ago. A friend of mine that used to own a store does a pop-up occasionally, and he had some pretty great stuff. I took a pretty sizable budget and only found a few higher priced records, and this happened to be one of them. It's one of my favorite records, and I don't know if it might be my favorite record from this band. It's Sonic Youth's Dirty, and this is an original copy on David Geffen DGC. And the cool thing about this one is that it is on orange vinyl, and this was a pressing. I'm not exactly sure if this is which pressing this is. There's two kinds of pressing on orange out of Australia. One was called a dirty box, and I believe there were only like 100 made, and it came with like a shirt and a box. The vinyl is same color, everything about it's the same. And then they also not reissued, but maybe at the same time they released it on orange with a different jacket, like an overlay, and that was maybe a pressing of 1,000 or so. So whatever this is, it's the Australian pressing on orange vinyl. Sounds great, and it's Sonic Youth. So And here's a couple. I have some records here. I think I'm blowing through these, so I'll just show some of them. Here's one I picked up in a local shop. It's Love Is Hell, and this is from the UK band Kitchens of Distinction, and this is on One Little Indian, and this came out in 1989, kind of like not really shoegaze, but around the same time, like ethereal kind of male vocals, different like Britpop or whatever. Kitchens of Distinction. This was a soundtrack in my pal that I got. It's a reissue from Mondo of Halloween 3. And it's on this orange with a black color. Pretty cool packaging. Actually, this was one of my favorite soundtracks, so I have every cover. That's probably the third or fourth different one I have. Picked up an original copy of Land Speed Record from Husker Du, and this is this isn't actually the first pressing. This is the first pressing on SST, but actually has the same matrix as the new Alliance pressing, which is the first pressing. So this is kind of like a transitional record. So I traded for this. So I also traded for this. It's the Dukes of Stratosphere 25 O'Clock, and this is a original on has Virgin, yeah, Virgin labels. This is a kind of psych band with members of XTC. It was a side project. So, pretty fun record. Really cool psychedelic artwork as well. Here's a fun novelty record I found. I haven't actually listened to it yet, but it's the Kid Stuff record for the soundtrack for Donkey Kong. I don't see this one around too much. There's Mario. Alright, so let's end this video with my top pick for the month. I found an original pressing of one of my favorite, if not one of my top 2 movies of all time. And this soundtrack is killer, from the Dust Brothers. It is the soundtrack for Fight Club. So I have a reissue of this that Mondo did earlier this year or last year, and always wanted an original, but I just never saw them, and then the opportunity presented itself locally, so I snatched it right up. I will talk about Fight Club. So that's all the records I have. Hope to make my Halloween video soon. And another thing, I've actually, I think maybe October 4th was my 1-year VC anniversary. So I got a new phone, so hopefully the videos are a little better and it actually records in stereo. And I'm trying to talk up without using the microphone. And I will see you next time, VC. Thanks for watching.